The name Ramaworks in recent years is one that isn't surrounded by too many positive things. A brand that when mentioned is usually followed by words such as scammer, long wait times, no communication, to put it lightly. A company that in recent years have even turned off comments on their Instagram page to prevent comments from unhappy customers demanding updates about products that they had ordered years ago. But it wasn't always like this for Ramaworks. When I joined the hobby, they were classed as endgame boards. Fantastic products with great design language and an unboxing experience that was unlike the majority of other boards of the time. So where did it all go wrong? Before we get into the drama, let's first look at exactly who Ramaworks are and some of the notable releases from the brand throughout their time in this hobby. Ramaworks are an Australian company that was founded back in 2016, operating nowadays with a handful of staff members on the ground, focusing on products ranging from luxury computer keyboards to collectible novelties, as per their LinkedIn page. The Dieter Rams inspired aesthetic that is a mainstay in a large number of their products can be seen from the get-go in both the M10A macro pad and the M65A, the first keyboard that was released by Rama and distributed by Keyclag, with first teasers appearing at the end of 2016. The board featured the large bezels that are prevalent on a lot of their later designs, along with visible hardware and a bottom weight in the middle of an RGB diffusing bottom portion. A number of their earlier released designs seem to be commissioned, such as the M36A, a board commissioned by a Geekhack user, and the M67A, a board with some pretty interesting proportions, a modern redesign of a vintage Apple keyboard that is full of intricate details on the underside of the board. It was commissioned by Amos, with the electronics interestingly done by Yuxi of TGR. The board had its full rerun being slightly reworked as the XN65 in January of 2017, with further input from other large names in the space such as Originative. Following other items carrying this modern industrial design aesthetic, the next board of the Rama lineup was the M60A in March of 2018. This was a board that featured a hot swap Wilbur PCB, an integrated plate and an optional internal brass weight for added heft. The Koyu was the next board on the list at the end of 2018, a new take on the 65% form factor sporting the X branding that is now very prevalent across their collection today. The first larger form factor board by Rama was the U80. Not only this, but it was also the first to incorporate the mute mounting system, a silicone dampening solution which allowed plate mounting through isolation, sitting on top of the PCB beneath the plate. The design of the board is quite reminiscent of older Rama models. Large bezels, laser edge torque screws, and the addition of a PVD stainless steel accent piece along the bottom of the board to really bring it all together. It's fair to say that a lot of Rama's lineup consists of reiterations of previously released boards. This included the M60A Sec 2, which opened for pre-order at the start of 2019, with the next iteration of the M65, the M65B, releasing around the same time, again incorporating the mute technology. The M65B came in a number of interesting colorways, both in anodized and e-coated variants, with the options of internal weights or silicone dampeners as extra add-ons, another running theme in a lot of Rama's offerings around the time, up until present day. Now, Rama have also been responsible for the manufacturing of projects in collaboration with other designers, of which this first design is probably the most well known. The Thermal, now existing in both 60% and 65% form factors of the Thermal Plus, was first introduced in 2019, a board designed by Wilbur and distributed through the Rama Foundry. The Thermal is a board that when I first got into the hobby was somewhat of a grail. It was the first board that I really had my eye on after seeing the Zephyr online, and the brutalist style of the board with those big old heatsink looking sides and the visible plate for the leaf spring mounting was something that I never imagined a keyboard could be. The Thermal Plus was a beautiful follow-up to the original, but we'll get onto that in a little bit. Although the Thermal was what I would have called an endgame back in the day, the Rama board that I settled on, and one that is still heavily in my rotation to this day, is the Zenith, designed by Ion Keyboards. This is a 65% board with an XT panel, a layout that was originally seen on the KMac Mini. The board is a variation of the Juby with an extra 5% and some added characteristics to the design that make it a little bit more Ramaworks. I've had this thing built up with a custom cut PP plate for a while, and I really do like how it feels. The last board to mention from the Foundry is the Jules, a top mount 65% that was designed by Zambamon, who's known for designing a number of sought after keycap sets in this hobby. Now, in this day and age of budget, accessible keyboards, how have Rama kept up? Well, Rama do have their own budget board in the chamber, which first released in 2020, an injection molded ABS take on the original M60A, incorporating mute mounting technology. The board had a lot of mixed reviews on quality when it first released, but I did like the variety of colours it was offered in, as well as the customizability it offered through different backplates in both opaque and translucent plastic, to match different key sets or looks that people aim for within their setups. So you may be sat there thinking, well, this isn't their whole lineup. And you'd be right, because a few of their latest boards take us into the next section of the video, which is probably more important to cover first because these boards haven't actually fulfilled yet. So let's talk about where it all started going wrong for Rama. Now, I'm not going to go into the personal aspect of this part because I'm not one for talking about people's personal lives. but all the information is out there if you really want to go and do your own reading on this at the end of the video. Now, prior to 2021, although group buys were still taking around a year and a half to fulfill, they were completing, doing so with solid QC, nice Rama artisan caps being produced in collaboration with other key sets, and overall people were happy with the delivered products. Once the main Rama team disbanded in 2021, with Wilbur stopping business relations with Rama, aside from agreeing to produce the PCBs for the Thermal and Thermal Plus orders, and Kate starting Hebe, cracks started to show for the Rama releases. Drops in QC, poor communication, you get the picture. It's interesting to know that VIA was originally designed by Wilbur and Olivia to support RamaWorks keyboards, way before VIA was the open source powerhouse supporting almost every PCB floating around today. It became quite apparent around this time that both Kate and Wilbur played a crucial role in the design aspects of the RamaWorks keyboards. Looking at the high QC and beautifully crafted releases from Hebe over the past year, I think this is a fair statement to make. As worded very well by Gondolindrum, Wilbur and Kate were very involved with the whole operation and were arguably driving forces within Rama, if not integrative partners. Kate founding Hebe also led to Rama starting a legal action against the company, details of which were posted all over the forums at the time. As much as I don't want to go into the details of the litigation, it's important to note that while Wilbur and Kate leaving were a massive hit to Rama, this litigation may have been the final nail in the coffin, with reports of Rama allegedly selling off personal assets after it was initiated, and public information regarding the Thermal and Thermal Plus group buys, highlighting months after the sale had ended that parts such as the PCBs had still not been ordered for the boards. Speaking of the Thermal, the board took almost 2 years from pre-order ending to delivery date, and when it finally arrived, the rose gold looked nothing like the renders. Obviously it's still a lovely colourway, but after waiting all that time and for the colour to be different than you'd actually ordered, it's a little bit disheartening to say the least. Add in the fact that Rama took zero responsibility for it, and it just adds a whole other level to it for buyers. This isn't the first time their colour matching wasn't up to scratch with their renders, with the Zenith taking a year and a half to fulfill just for the green to come out completely differently to the renders. Although I do personally prefer this green colour. Poor communication has been a bit of a running trend with RamaWorks, going through phases of deleting comments and questions regarding status of orders and problems with units, to flat out ignoring them but interacting with comments that put favourable light on Rama. This has ultimately led to the Rama comment section on Instagram being completely closed off, so people cannot voice their anger or express their concerns over the 4 releases that still haven't shipped, while they tease other lifestyle products on their Instagram like pens, lighters and figurines. So what projects am I talking about then? Well, the second round of the Kara is probably the most infuriating for buyers, with the majority of buyers still not having units to this day. The project opened first in July of 2021, promising fast fulfillment as the boards would be injection molded, meaning once the mold is complete, boards could be produced quickly and efficiently, with an estimated arrival in Q4 of 2021. Although that hasn't seemed to be the case. 2.5 years on, with what was a year of very unspecific delays, the boards still aren't in the hands of everyone who got in on the buy. Zed Frontier have received their units and seem to be selling extras, while others have been waiting almost an extra year for an update on theirs. Shocking. The 3 other boards that are yet to ship, with the 2-year wait time near enough for each of them, are the M60B, the M65C, and the U80B. Of course, a lot of letters, isn't it? Boards that if you look for any update on the Rama site will greet you with an in production since early this year. Although this doesn't seem to be the case necessarily, surprise surprise, with posts on the RamaWorks subreddit indicating a queue system, which the U80B seems to be third in the line of, so it's highly unlikely these boards are going to be in the hands of buyers anytime soon. There is even this really cool graph that was posted on the subreddit showing the length of time for fulfillment versus the release of products over time, as well as the keyboard products or lack of released following Kate's departure from Rama in 2021. The graph shows the length of time for certain GMK fulfillment times for comparison, which are pretty comparable to Rama's fulfillment times for the most part. The difference here is the expectation set from Rama from the get-go, with the fulfillment times of these products, the missed deadlines, and the inherent lack of transparency around these deadlines, giving customers wishy-washy email responses and no real clarity on the time that they should be expecting products to reach their hands. The group buy model assumes a lot of trust from buyers, and with all the recent drama surrounding exit scams, group buyitis, and the resultant fuck it, the lack of communication and active effort to stop complaints on social media while teasing upcoming products completely unrelated to keyboards are all factors that might make any future releases from Rama obsolete within the keyboard space. It'll be interesting to see where Rama actually go from here as a keyboard brand, or whether they'll continue releasing more lifestyle focused products that cater to a whole other market altogether. The downfall of Rama is quite an interesting one, as touch wood, they have fulfilled all their products, and the boards that have hit people's hands even recently have been well received, drama aside. The general lack of transparency in a hobby that is so enthusiast driven is something that I think will stop a larger number of people considering buying future releases from the brand, whenever that might be. Overall, if you got into this hobby at the start of the pandemic, the 2 main keyboard brands that you'd see and associate with being the best of the best were Keycult and RamaWorks. Both had this beautiful packaging and unboxing experience that separated them from other community-run projects of the time, and when you combine this with the strong brand identity and industrial design influences behind the RamaWorks brand, it's easy to see why these boards would have been listed as an endgame for many. As this hobby has evolved and we're out the other end of COVID delays from manufacturers, Rama have never been able to get their communication back on track with buyers. Everyone knows that delays are inevitable in this hobby through the group buy model, and if you're part of Rama group buys pre-pandemic, you know that speed has never been one of their strong points. But when this combined with arguably the major driving forces of the brand leaving in 2021, it becomes a little clearer why recent projects haven't been as keyboard driven as a few years prior, and why Rama's customer base seems to be becoming more and more frustrated by the lack of transparency regarding the progress of keyboard projects left to ship years since the respective group buys and pre-orders ended. The downfall of Rama isn't like a lot of other names in the space. There isn't some outlandish controversy, litigations aside, or exit scams, but it just seems to be the complete disregard for their clientele, an unapologetic lack of updates since Kate and Rama left in 2021, leaving those still waiting for products not excited to receive them. Blocking comments on social media is the final nail in the coffin, ignoring any concerns regarding product wait times, all while teasing new products that are on the horizon. Now that's all I had on Rama. I hope you've enjoyed today's video. If you did, make sure to subscribe and leave a like down below, and let me know in the comments your thoughts on the situation or the brand of Rama as a whole. As always, these videos are never intended to stir drama or spread hate, but more so inform those in the community who may not know about it. All my socials are linked down below. Thanks for watching, and I will see you nerds in the next one. Peace!